vibes. That our home is a tropical island paradise.
The holidays are well underway and hopefully the experience has been a good one for you so far. Let's save and remember the good memories being created. Hi there, it's good to be with you once again for another edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm Adrian Atkinson. In our show today, we'll explore the magnificence of our Blue and John Crow Mountains. Plus, find out why these 24 hours are called Boxing Day. These and more interesting features are coming up in the half hour, so stay with us.
Jamaica, there's hot sunny weather, and people are warm and friendly all the time. Now it's the Christmas season, and the fun can't stop. So have a joyful Irish Christmas.
The Aedes aegypti is one of several types of mosquitoes found here in Jamaica and elsewhere in the world. Know them. They are small, dark mosquitoes with white lyre-shaped markings and banded legs. The Aedes aegypti mosquito lives in and around places where people gather and breeds anywhere water settles, such as artificial containers in and around homes and other buildings. It's a vector that transmits the virus that causes a number of diseases, such as dengue, chickpea, and the Zika virus. Find them. Destroy them. Cover water containers to prevent mosquitoes getting inside. Dispose of garbage containers to prevent water settling in them. And frequently check and empty any container that water might settle to ensure these are kept dry. And scrub vessels clean to get rid of eggs. The Aedes aegypti mosquito. Don't give it a home.
It's a beautiful day, and while many of us see the beach as the place to be, others are looking to the mountains. When was the last time you made the trek to the Blue and John Crow Mountains? Well, we always knew it was a wonder to behold, and now the world agrees.
What a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful island we have.
Its culture and nature magically intertwined, one of the reasons that make this World Heritage Site special. Come with us to the Blue and John Crow Mountains. There is much to see, touch, smell, and taste up in these hills.
You can just come in for the day, sit, relax, have your barbecue, go hike on our hiking trails. You can have a tour guide if you so desire to take you on the trail. You can also bring your tent and you can camp overnight. In the Blue Mountain Peak area, you can hike to the Blue Mountain Peak, go to the ice point, come back to Portland Gap where you can rest. The attraction at the peak itself is people hike up in the night, stop at their cabins, right? And then 3 o'clock in the morning, you'll get up out your bed, hike on the trail for another 2 hours to the peak itself to see the sunrise. It is beautiful.
This is where peace is. Talk about getting away from the hustle and bustle of life. This is the place to be. Its cool nature, yes, often cold, particularly in the latter part of the year. But you'll be easily warmed by the best tasting coffee and dance the day away with captivating traditional entertainment. Yes, the Blue and John Crow Mountains has it all. You leave amazed, not believing it all exists in one place, some 4,000 feet above sea level. High up, where it feels like you can touch the clouds, where you can watch birds making their nests, playing among their flock.
How it gets its name, the blue. If you're in Kingston looking in the hills or on the hills, you would see the color blue on the mountain. The John Crow part of it is our ancestors used to hunt wild boar and take it to the other parishes to sell to the different parishes. So what is not sold off, they would leave it, they wouldn't take it back home, and then the John Crow will come down and clean up after they leave.
On the 3rd of July 2015, the Blue and John Crow Mountains was inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage Site list. After many years of championing for this cause, the committee fell under the spell of the mountains and gave in. They had no choice. The national park is a true natural treasure. Don't be fooled though. This site is huge, impossible to fully discover in a day, maybe not even in a week. It spans 4 parishes: St. Andrew, Portland, St. Mary, and St. Thomas. Just over 26,000 hectares, and is the preservation zone of the Blue and John Crow Mountains National Park, which itself is just over 48,000 hectares. The Blue and John Crow Mountains is one of 32 World Heritage Sites listed for both cultural and natural heritage. There are over 1,357 flowering plants, with over 25% being endemic. All Jamaica's 30 endemic birds can be found in the area. Dozens of herbal plants to cure almost every ailment.
This is called the headache bush. You can use it as a painkiller. So if you have an headache or a stomach ache, you could boil it. Like a tea, have 2 or 3 leaves to a cup of water. You remember they used to send telegrams, right? In the early days, this is what they used to use, like the ancestors, the Maroons. They would write on this and send it. If you carve on it, it will stay whether it's green or dry. And the information, you could use this and send the information like a letter.
And it provides that precious commodity.
The Blue and John Crow Mountain provide 45% of Jamaica drinking water. There are 25 watersheds in the entire Jamaica, and 10 of those watersheds can be found in the Blue and John Crow Mountain National Park.
On the cultural side, the Maroons take center stage. Once a refuge for runaway slaves, it remains home for their descendants. Their way of life is an intriguing history lesson for the unknown. There you may imbibe on authentic foods and dive into the inviting Nanny Falls.
The interesting thing is that so few of us Jamaicans take advantage of the opportunity that we have up here in terms of the relaxation, the climate.
Don't allow foreigners to know this World Heritage Site more than you. Remember, when you go, take only pictures and leave only footprints. For a tour inside the Blue and John Crow Mountains, call the Jamaica Conservation and Development Trust 960-2848-9 or 920-8278.
This is the Aedes aegypti mosquito that spreads the Zika, chikungunya, and dengue viruses. Protect yourself from the bite of this mosquito. A message from the Ministry of Health.
Today is widely celebrated as Boxing Day across the world. No, it's not about a fist fight with gloves on. Think of a box in wrappers. Yes, as an act of goodwill, the day is really about gifting the less fortunate. Let's find out more.
Now, Boxing Day, also called St. Stephen's Day, originated in 17th century England.
It really originated in the custom of gift giving in England. Later on, it was extended to the British Commonwealth.
There are about 4 explanations as to why this custom was celebrated.
First of all, because working class people used to work on Christmas Day, the custom was for their employers to box up leftovers that they had on Christmas Day, and then on the day after Christmas to distribute it to the workers. Also, there was a custom where even people in church in 17th century England used to collect. They had a box and they would collect offerings and goods to distribute at the end of the year. Also, there was a custom where priests on ships would collect, they would pray for a safe journey and then collect stuff. When the journey was concluded, they would then, distribute this as sort of Thanksgiving. And then also working class people in England used to literally have something like an earthenware box. Later on, it was a wooden box. And they would save and then break this box open at Christmas time and distribute the contents so that people could enjoy their festivities.
So that means it was the container that gave name to the custom. And since Jamaica was a British colony, we adopted the practice. Later on, around the 19th century, Boxing Day became a public holiday. And of course, it was transferred to Jamaica in the post-colonial period. The day is also celebrated in New Zealand, Australia, Canada, and Germany, just to name a few. So, how do we Jamaicans really celebrate Boxing Day?
From what I observe, Boxing Day is really a public holiday, and most Jamaicans would go to the beach, they visit their families, and so on. I think we have departed from the traditional meaning and practice of Boxing Day. But of course, there are some people who still do charitable work, not only on Boxing Day, but also on Christmas Day. In any event, I can't imagine people in Jamaica liking that custom where quote-unquote better off people would put leftovers in boxes and distribute on the day after Christmas, They'd say, we're going with that kind of thing.
Now, Boxing Day is not entirely universal. There is also something called Kwanzaa. That's a celebration which starts on December 26 and ends on January 1.
There are people who don't buy that Christmas story as it has come down to us through the church. And so Kwanzaa is an African-inspired alternative. And of course, we know that the Festival of the Lights or the Feast of the Lights or Hanukkah is celebrated by Jewish people.
Whatever their origins or inspirations, persons throughout the Caribbean and the rest of the world have their own unique celebrations during the Christmas period. What's yours? Driving in holiday traffic or really any other time of the year demands your constant attention and vigilance to make sure you get from point A to B safely. It's far easier to do that if you follow a few simple rules. Stay alert. Do not be distracted by your cell phone, any other gadget or passenger while driving. When traveling at night, park in a well-lit area and always keep your car doors locked, even when at a stoplight. Make sure you have enough fuel in case there's an emergency and you need to divert from your usual route. In the event that you feel threatened while driving, stay calm and do not react aggressively. Instead, drive to a busy, safe place or the nearest police station. Follow these few tips and navigate the busy streets safely this holiday season and indeed at all times.
Let's continue the focus on giving. For the rest of the festive season, reach out and touch a neighbor in need.
Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place if you can.
The eyesore of a community gets tidy because citizens feel they have a responsibility to act. A building gets a well-needed facelift and gifts for those in need. At-risk youth benefiting from academic and skills training, while poor performance gets tackled through extra lessons. All through the efforts of generous hearts, making tangible contributions and creating positive change. It's all part of nation building, inspiring hope and rewarding oneself with the joy of sharing with other people. And what better time is there than now? I've been thinking lately, and I think you should give it some thought too. The development of my community needs my input. But where do I start?
The very first place that I would encourage anybody who wants to be a part of the community, who wants to resolve to be active in their community, is to be a part of a community-based organization.
I firmly believe that participation is important to the development process. Action at all levels, all age groups, for deeds, not just words, get the job done. Communities need the participation of its able citizens to do something to create positive change. Do you agree? What can we do? Volunteer, share good ideas, help fix a problem, show love, show that we care, if that's all we can do. So much to complain about, things not being done, the things we need for ourselves, for our communities, the plight of the less fortunate.
I tell people all the time that I think Jesus was a community development officer because you don't see Jesus in the church every day sitting down, worshiping. You see Jesus in the streets, in the communities, right? So even in churches, be a part of the outreach groups in your church.
Where I live should be the best place to live. So issues such as roads, housing, water, sanitation, crime, unemployment and training is of concern to me, and it should be of concern to you too. Now is as good a time as any to give a helping hand through greater community participation. And I therefore resolve to do more to help. You should too. As a citizen, I know what's best for my community, the real needs. And waiting on governments to make decisions and effect change for me is not something that I'm inclined to do. I am subscribing to the idea of community self-help. The thing is, my participation as well as yours can help to solve our problems, but it will mean getting involved in a more organized way.
Under the local government reform process, the SDC has been very instrumental in setting up community development committees. These are umbrella organizations that captures the community-based organizations in the community. Then it provides an excellent opportunity to deal with the issues firsthand.
Together we can plan and implement projects using our expertise and resources to develop our community. While I make my resolve to be more active, why not join me? There are no age or gender limits for the willing and able. The various community projects and services that we'll have to carry out requires not only our time and expertise, but also funding. And here, the Social Development Commission comes in handy, getting formal development plans in place and helping with accessing financing through the Jamaica Social Investment Fund and other donors.
There are strength in numbers, so when a group represents a major concern or a minor concern within the community, you find that they will be heard on not just from the end of the government, but from non-government organizations, businesses.
So much we can do, starting in our own backyard.
Then join others to work on issues we care about. Less hoping, less watching, less despairing, more doing. It will certainly contribute to a stronger, more self-sustained and organized country.
Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place if you can. The first Noel.
May the peace of God be with you during this season, and best wishes for a Happy New Year from all of us at JIS.
Guys, I'm not ready.
Ready long time. Let's go. Ready, Mona?
Yeah. Oh, Shelly, I have a file for you for tomorrow, okay?
All right.
I'm gonna leave it on your desk.
Sure, go right ahead.
But Shelly, you don't shut down the computer.
But it not gonna do nothing.
But of course, when you leave it on, it burns excess energy.
I say go?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you know that the country foots the bill to import the fuel that produces electricity? Let's all play our part to conserve on energy by ironing once per week, unplugging all appliances when not in use, and avoid keeping the refrigerator open for a long period of time when removing food. Get smart. Don't get left in the dark.
Energy conservation should be on all our minds during this period when electricity usage can so easily spike. Government has been leading the drive for conservation, taking measures to cut the cost to the public purse. Take a look.
Since 2011, the government has set out to reduce its energy expenditure. And with a grant of $20 million from the Inter-American Development Bank, the Energy Efficiency Conservation EEC program was activated. The program identified areas within the public sector that are to benefit from energy efficiency opportunities. Energy audits were carried out on several government buildings. The findings revealed savings of approximately $100 million if the recommended retrofits are undertaken. This covers 3 areas.
Retrofitting of air conditioning units, old and inefficient air conditioning units, the replacement of different types of lighting in the various office buildings, application of what's called solar control film to the windows, and the application of cool roof solutions to the roof of the various facilities.
As the work got off to a start, cool roof application and the tinting of windows were applied to several government buildings, including the Office of the Prime Minister, the National Housing Trust, and the Bureau of Standards Jamaica. The procedure is to significantly reduce the heat on the buildings.
Those sets of retrofits are continuing today. The solar control film, the majority of that was completed over a 10 to 12 month period. The cool roof was completed as well.
Having done the building envelope retrofits, the air conditioning needs would be considerably lower now that the buildings are much cooler. So the next step is assessing the current air conditioning configuration, and where there is inefficiency, corrective measures are taken.
The air conditioning retrofits, those have been progressing and those continue to progress through to today. We started with the Jamaica Information Service. We also did work at KPH, Victoria Jubilee Hospital. We are still doing work at the Mobile Revenue Center in Montego Bay, and we are completing work at the Don Sangster building downtown.
In addition to replacing the units, part of the Energy Efficiency Conservation Program is the implementation of a management system that will automatically turn off or lower the temperature on air conditioning units when no one is occupying the room, and do the same for lights. The aim is to use cooling and lighting only where it is absolutely necessary. Serious about cutting its electricity bill significantly, the government also set out to address the need for more efficient lighting across government entities. With all these drastic changes, public sector workers were brought on board to promote the conservation of energy within their respective ministries and agencies.
In doing so, the government was able to design a program along with the assistance of the IDB to target not only the institutions themselves, but also the employees, to bring them on board and to have them trained in energy conservation methods, tips, and certain other things that the facilities managers could do, as well as the employees themselves could do. We actually have a public education campaign that we're now starting with the GIS. And that also involves not just public education, but also going into various organizations and meeting with the staff, sharing with them some of the best practices, giving them some tips and so on, as to how they can also play a role in energy conservation.
Officers with responsibility for energy management were also trained in areas such as the importance of energy conservation to national development, the impact on the performance of government entities, and workers' role in managing government's energy assets and resources. These officers will now be able to evaluate their ministry or department's energy usage and effectively monitor and take the necessary corrective action.
The IDB, when it just started this program, said it was what they call a paradigm shift in the way government does business in Jamaica. And so we now have a cadre of people, cadre of personnel, cadre of professionals who have gone through the fire, so to speak, and know how that information, have that training, have that knowledge to be able to impart to the wider Caribbean, wider Jamaica.
The government, through the Energy Efficiency Conservation Program, is bent on making the public sector an energy-conscious model for the rest of the society.
And in terms of actual savings, measurable and verified savings, we have a cumulative of about 80 million Jamaican dollars in savings to date.
We are currently projecting to, at the end, be saving somewhere in the region of 175,000 barrels of oil for once the overall implementation, and we're talking about greenhouse gas emission savings of over 86,000 tons per year.
This is where we close Jamaica Magazine for today. We're back tomorrow with more useful information. In the meantime, keep the link. Use our Facebook and Twitter pages, YouTube channel and the JIS website to stay in touch and get the very latest government information. On behalf of the entire team here at the JIS, I'm Adrian Atkinson, reminding you to share the love and be your brother's keeper this festive season, and let peace and happiness abide among us all.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.